Hello ladies, I hope that your day is going well. In this video, I want to talk about the importance of choosing well, the importance of choosing for the long term. If you haven't already, please hit the like, please subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time that I upload a new video. So there has been one particular story that's been dominating a lot of the entertainment news over the course of the past week, and that involves KEKE Palmer and the father of her son, who I believe is her boyfriend or was her boyfriend, until the infamous scene from the Usher concert in Las Vegas, where she was captured being serenaded by Usher, and her boyfriend had some very sharp words for her about her attire as a mother, and he received a lot of backlash in regards to his comments regarding being the man of the family and what was appropriate, what a standard was. And I don't like to do the celebrity gossip. I like to focus on what is the teachable moment. I think there's a lot to learn there's a lot to discuss regarding this topic, but not focusing on KEKE in particular, but looking at the bigger picture, because this is a scenario that has played out time and time again. And when I say this, there's a couple different things I'm actually referring to, a couple different dynamics. One is hypogamy, and the other is also when we have given wife benefits as a girlfriend. So I am an ardent supporter of marry before you carry for a variety of reasons. And first of all, from a spiritual foundation. Second, economically. We know that historically for Black women, because we have been having a higher percentage of mothers unmarried than married over the course of the last 60 years, we have seen concurrently the poverty that we have endured as women, head of household. We have seen the high rates of homelessness for Black women and children. And certainly there has been a higher rate of crime in the neighborhoods that we live in, we reside in, because frankly, when we earn an average of $45,000, which means that some of us are earning $20,000 versus the others earning $60,000-ish, it means that we don't always reside in neighborhoods that have a high quality of life and that tend to have higher rates of crime and violence, unfortunately. So we know that those two have been synergists for decade after decade and now generation after generation. And I think it's important for us to recognize that while we have, I think for the most part, have valiantly worked to raise children as single mothers and to raise children to adulthood, I think that certainly there are a lot of challenges that have come with that. And it bears out in the poverty rates, it bears out in the perpetuation of generational cycles of poverty. It plays out in the neighborhoods with a quality of life that has been impeded. It plays out in a higher rate of crime and violence that we're impacted by. It plays out in higher evictions and homelessness rates. Even though we have raised children generation after generation with a higher percentage of single motherhood as our dynamic, I think it really reiterates how important it is to do our screening and our vetting, but also that a man should be befitting of a legacy and of us providing heirs, an heir or heirs. That is something that, as a prerequisite, there should already be a foundation that a man has provided, because it's a privilege. Parenthood is a privilege. And for us to potentially risk our life, because Black women have the highest mortality rate in terms of giving birth. We have the highest rate, and this is in 2023, not 1923, but 2023, still have the highest rate of perishing during childbirth or shortly after childbirth, the highest rate. So if we're going to risk our life, it most definitely should be for a man who has provided a commitment, who has initiated a commitment to us and has provided a foundation. We have seen what happens when we engage in and we are accommodating of or acquiescing to struggle of. We have seen what has happened for multiple generations now, in multiple decades, what has happened when we have participated in the struggle of relationships where we are giving wife benefits and girlfriend prices, and where we are lowering our standard and our expectations, and where we have provided an heir to a man who has not provided the foundation for that. So that is very important, because there should first be a commitment, and not just a commitment in word, but in deed, in actions, providing a foundation before we start having children or before we have the first child with a man. We want to be aligned with a man who is committed and dedicated and loyal, and who has an emotional foundation, who has a spiritual foundation, who is not only committed and loyal and dedicated, but where we can see the fruits of his labors, where we can see that he's financially stable and he has a job and he has a foundation upon which we can build this family upon, a foundation. So in just referencing the situation with KEKE, here we have a situation where her boyfriend is referencing having a standard, but I think that is problematic, is that the standard should have been to marry her before a child was created. That should have been the standard, because that is what an actual high standard looks like. But also, in terms of being a provider, but also in addition to that, there are communication standards that should be in place, where if there is an issue such as presentation in public, those are things that are discussed behind closed doors. So there is discretion in terms of the discussion that takes place versus it playing out in a public arena, a public forum like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So it's very important that we not acquiesce, not engage in a relationship where we're not aligned in terms of what are our core values, what is our expectation in a relationship, what does our integrity look like versus the man that we're engaging with, what does the character look like, are we on the same page, are we aligned? The Bible says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed? So if you're not in alignment, if you're not in synergy, if you're not in step with one another, there's going to be discordance. And this can be a recurring cycle. This can be a recurring happening, a recurring dynamic, and a recurring fixture in your relationship when you're not on the same page. And that's why it's so important that we're doing our due diligence, that we are vetting, that we are screening, that we are making sure that we have the same vision, the same goals, the same expectation and standard in a relationship. And certainly, circling back, if a man wants us to be the mother of his children, he should first be asking us to become his wife, and he should be a husband who is going to be dedicated and loyal, and a functional husband, and one that is going to be dedicated and engaged. So not just engaged financially, but engaged emotionally in the raising of the child or children. This is very important, and it's so important because we have all the data and we have the statistics, and we have not just anecdotally, but what we have seen with our own two eyes, or we have lived, our lived experiences, which provide rich evidence of what happens for us as women, what has happened to us as a demographic of women when we have given wife benefits as girlfriends with a girlfriend title. What has happened when we have removed our standard, lowered our standard, obliterated our standard, when we have acquiesced to struggle of, when we have had a one-sided relationship, when we have not required a firm foundation before providing a legacy or an heir to a man. In some cases doesn't want it, or does not have the ability to provide, or both. And that is something that's very important. We have to know our worth and know our value and know that we don't have to acquiesce to these lacking relationships, to these one-sided relationships, to struggle love relationships, to being the come-up woman or the clean-up woman, or a relationship where a man does not want to engage in giving us a commitment, a true long-term commitment, and engaging in that prior to the expectation of us providing a child or being anywhere near our reproductive organs where a child can be conceived. That should be understood. We deserve to be provided for, protected, to be loved, to be wives, if we choose to get married. Now, if we choose to be single, that's certainly our choice. But if a man is expecting us to be a mother, he should first be expecting us to be a wife. So we should maintain a high standard. We should maintain a high expectation. We should not lower our standard any more than any other group of women has not been expected to. And we have to recondition, to shake off the conditioning, the grooming, the socialization that says that we should expect less in a relationship because that's all that we can get. Because that is false programming. It is a false narrative. It is spiritually incorrect and invalid. And certainly it is a standard that never should have been engaged in and certainly never repeated and replicated. It is far past time for us as women to recognize our worth, recognize our value, recognize that we should receive the best in a relationship and that we should not be settling for anything less. If a man is wanting us to risk our life having his child, we should already be his wife. And he should already have that expectation. And if he doesn't, we need to look at all the many statistics and data that has shown us how poorly that has worked out for us when we have acceded to that low expectation. Let me know what you think in the comments beneath the video. As always, be blessed. Continue to level up. Stay far away from the struggle matrix and settling because you deserve better.